to talk a little bit more about the Sustainable Development Goals and the work that we are doing. So you've already heard about my colleagues, Joey or Yelis, about how to get to net zero, or about the certification that B-Lab Europe is having. And now what I want to emphasize on is a global agenda that most of you may already be familiar with, which are the Sustainable Development Goals. So as a kind reminder, B-Lab Vision is actually an inclusive, equitable and regenerative economic system for all the people and the planet. And that can come in many different ways. We talked already earlier about stakeholder capitalism, but it's actually also very linked with the idea of the Sustainable Development Goals and sustainability in itself. Why do we mention the SDGs, as we often call them? It's because the SDGs are a global agenda. They are something, a sort of global line, a silver lining that is uniting all of us towards a common objective all together. Some of you may already be quite familiar with it, some may be a bit less, but things that usually are not so common and famously known about the SDGs is that they were actually the result of a collaborative process. So they're involved even in the designing process itself, very different stakeholders, not only public institutions, but companies were also part of it, and some citizens were also part of a definition of those goals. It has been an unprecedented process just to be able to define that very holistic model. They also have been defined for all of us. So some of you may think that the SDGs are maybe related to only certain countries, depending on their maturity level, or to certain people. Actually not. They have been defined to fit every one of our needs to have prosperity for all. And then last thing about them is that the SDGs are all interconnected. They represent a system. The challenges, the issues we try to solve on our planet are all systemic. So in results, those goals have always also been defined in a very systemic way. You also may know that we have progressed a lot in the recent years on those goals, thanks to very collaborative efforts and raised awareness about them. But unfortunately, even more with the pandemic that has hit us recently, the issues and the challenges that we have in our system have been outlined. We are still falling behind in some very important goals. You can see here a few examples. I'm not going to quote them all because we will focus on how to take action and take positive turns. But I think it's also important to realize that if we talk, for example, of water, we still have water scarcity that will displace 700 million people that needs to move because of it. So some effects that are happening in certain countries are having consequences in other countries. We also have, during the pandemic, more than 1 billion of workers from the informal economy that are risking losing their livelihoods. In terms of health as well, unfortunately, we're also getting backwards and reversing decades of improvements. Of course, some positive news also have been happening during this pandemic, and especially a lot of collaborations and partnerships. And as I said before, this raising awareness has been becoming more and more prominent. And this is what we are going to talk about today all together. Because when we talk about those goals and realize that there is so much more that still can be done, the question arises, who should act? Is it the governments? Is it the public institutions, since they are accountable? But would they be able to realize it on their own? I know I'm asking the question that you already know the answer, because as you've heard already before, so many great examples of companies taking action. We all have a role to play. As a citizen, as an individual, as an organization, we all in our everyday life play a role. And today we're going to focus on how businesses can really play this catalyzing and important critical role to be able to get closer to achieving those goals for the benefit of all. But you can see here some key numbers about how businesses are actually already contributing using this framework as a common agenda. And we're realizing that 46% of businesses are integrating sustainability in their core strategy, which you will see very soon is a key element on how to really address effectively sustainability. But it's still not enough. And 21% of the CEOs believe that business is actually playing a critical role to contribute to those goals. But how about the others? And we're also seeing that only 13% of the companies are actually extending their approach to their suppliers. How about the others as well? And 39% of companies are confident that their targets are ambitious, So on top of taking action, only 39% believe that we're doing enough. So we actually need to do more. And how to do that, that's actually what we're going to talk about today. How to take action. So of course, it's starting with our impact. We all have an impact. Every organization has an impact, whether it's measuring it or not. So the first step is to assess your impact and understand what is already your contribution on society. And then after you also manage your impact, of course, being inspired and being also partnering with committed pioneers. And this is why I'm really happy to be joined today by three amazing individuals that are playing a key role in their company today and that will start appearing pretty soon. So I'll be introducing in the three people joining me today, Boac from Exarchepăce Vitra, who is the innovation director there. Very happy to have you here. Boac is a very passionate person that has started his career as an engineer, has played various different roles trying to associate innovation with sustainability, but is also a very busy person, even outside of his working hours, have many different projects and always thinking on what kind of value he can bring to society. So welcome, Boac. Together with Boac, we also have Marta coming from Ferrer, which is a family-owned pharmaceutical company. And Ferrer has also, if you look at their website, it's all about how to add value for society and how to benefit stakeholders. Marta is also very passionate about sustainability. She has dedicated most of her life on this topic, research, studies, and she's also very dedicated to working with Ferrer. So we are very happy to have her together with us. Hello, Marta. And we have the last person, but also very important, Elisabetta, that is joining us from Italy. So another country. I didn't mention Marta was in Spain and of course Boac from Turkey. So we have a very international crowd. And Elisabetta is going to be representing Tridom, which is a company that is supporting countries in Africa by planting trees, but taking also a very holistic approach, integrating, defending and making the planet green again and more green, but also taking into account social and economical considerations in how they're doing that mission. Elisabetta is also very passionate about the environment in particular, and we will be inspired by how she's acting with that in Tridom and her vision. So welcome again to the three of you. Very happy to have you here. And in order to get the conversation started, I will start with a question to understand with your companies, why do you contribute to the SDGs in the first place? What is motivating your company to contribute to this global agenda? May I ask Marta maybe to start by explaining how Ferrer is doing this?
Hi, Nayla. Thank you. And thank you for inviting us in this amazing panel session today with my colleagues. Well, as you said, Ferrer has been working with sustainability for many years now. We integrate sustainability in our purpose, and I think that's very important. And it's one of the main goals, actually. The two pillars of our corporate strategy are people and sustainability. And our purpose, Ferrer for Good, wants to create a positive impact in society. And that's why we currently are in the process of becoming a B Corp certified company. And we believe, as you said, that companies have a huge role in all of this. We generate over 82% of the GDP, and that's why we must act in this process. And that's where SDG are like the tool or the guideline that help us know where we have to go. And we use this tool and we use the SDG as a guideline to assess where do we impact and where do we contribute the most. So a bit that's what we are now today and how SDG represent a huge thing for us in Ferrer.
Thank you, Marta. So for what I understood, in Ferrer is deeply embedded into the kind of the core culture and value and the mission of Ferrer itself. So that's totally compliant. And Elisabetta, can you tell us more about how it looks like in Tridom and why Tridom is contributing to the Sustainable Development Goals?
So, hi, everybody. I would say that Tridom was founded on the idea of having an environmental and social impact. So for us, the SDGs represent a tool also to translate our impact in a more comprehensible way for the public. And also it puts a benchmark on our work. So they gave us a more specific purpose to follow in a more wider view. So not just our company and our project, project, but in a more worldwide perspective. So I would say that these are the main value. It also gives more value to our product. So our customers, our companies are more willing to have experience with us because they can relate to a really specific impact.
What is interesting, and you can see with already those two examples, is that it's not about just why are we contributing and integrating sustainability. We're just talking about the framework itself, because it's obvious that companies has to be sustainable, which is again great to be inspired by those stories. And I understand that more and more of this idea of SDGs being as a roadmap to unite and bridging different stakeholders and people together is showing from your different stories. How about Boğaç in Eczacıbaşı? What does it look like?
For Eczacıbaşı Vitra, SDGs are our guide for our core values to change people's behavior for good. We believe for a better world, we must integrate sustainable development goals to improve human lives, especially, and protect the environment for use, for sure. We need to change the habits and experiences of people. Also, the way of making business of industries. But there's a way out, and it is innovation, which I'm working on. With SDGs, the meaning of innovation has developed itself too. Now it means transforming lives by creating new experiences. Before it was just novelty changing value, and it was so limited, and it's not serving the SDGs. Among 17 SDGs, we as Eczacıbaşı Vitra innovation team mainly focus on 6 of them. These are good health, well-being, clean water and sanitation, innovation and infrastructure, sustainable cities and communities for sure, responsible consumption and production, and partnership for goals.
And going back on the mission of Eczacıbaşı Vitra, I also know you're a member of the UN Global Compact, and you have won also an award recently at being recognized as an SDG pioneer. Can you tell us more about this project that you have led also?
We developed the hygienic touchless public toilet in tackling with the COVID-19 pandemic. Each year, the UN Global Compact celebrates a group of SDG pioneers, and we applied to UN Global Compact SDG Pioneer selection last year, and I'm selected as 2020 Global Compact Turkey SDG Pioneer. Thank you for Global Compact for that. Now I believe we will representing Turkey in the global round in June. This shows how important the SDGs for me and for my company and for the team.
Thank you for sharing this story. And I had warned all of you listening to us that these 3 individuals were very passionate about what they're doing. And I hope you can feel that coming from their story sharing. So you've mentioned a few SDGs. So we've seen different ways of contributing to the SDGs already from your stories. We've understood from Tridom and Ferrer also coming directly from the business model, from Eczacıbaşı Vitra as well. But also, Boğaç, since you're talking from innovation, we're also understanding how this can be translated at different levels. So from the conception of the services and the products themselves, but also on the mindset and how you engage your stakeholders, internal and external. Marta, can you tell us more about in Ferrer, how do you work together with your stakeholders? And especially, I understood that with employees, this is something that is very key to be embedded in that mission. What does this journey of integrating sustainability looks like?
Yeah, it's an interesting journey and I'm passionate. As I said, sustainability is part of our course business, part of our purpose. That's what we want to contribute. And it's very important for us to involve all our employees. In fact, as Elizabeth was mentioning, we really believe that those companies that include sustainability as a new way of making business will also be able to better position themselves and also to pull talent and attract people to come work in a company that really wants to make a positive impact in society. So we try to involve our employees in all the different actions we create. And also when you were talking about the supply chain, well, because of we are in this process of becoming a B Corp certification, we also use the SDG Action Manager tool to see in which SDGs we contribute the most. And here when we did this exercise, we were actually quite surprised in some results we got, because, for example, we saw we had, of course, a huge impact, health and well-being, because we are a pharmaceutical company. but also in gender equality. And that's why we are a huge company working worldwide, and therefore we have a big impact in the value chain. So that's why we have specific projects to assess the social and environmental impact of our suppliers. We want to develop in the future programs to see how we can improve all of that, because if they improve, we will also see ourselves improved in the impact we generate. So it's a very interesting exercise to do across the whole company. And what we do is we establish cross-functional projects across the whole company. We make them work together and to see which parts have synergies. And it's important that they don't see sustainability just as something from the sustainability department. Sustainability is something that everyone has to take into account, either if it comes from a procurement department, a marketing department, R&D. So everyone has a huge role. And I think here it's where SDG and also the B Corp certification helps everyone understand their contribution to sustainability. And I think that's part of our success, and it's part of why our employees are understanding their contribution to all this process.
Thank you, Marta. I can already hear, like, now we're moving forward key success factors from I understand, because you have mentioned a few of them already, and the way that you're engaging your stakeholders. And as you said, that sustainability has to be integrated. I think for our audience, it's a very important aspect, which I know is also shared by the two other speakers as we have here, that sustainability has to be integrated every layer in terms of hierarchy, in terms of function, so that it can be aligned with from the company strategy to how it's being applied on an everyday basis. And you've also mentioned a benefit of actually contributing and integrating sustainability in terms of employee retention and employee engagement, so that people feel the ownership and feel that meaning that they are part and purpose of what they are doing on an everyday basis. You've also mentioned, and something that I would like to build out upon with Elisabetta, this aspect of the SDGs being connected, because as you said, you mentioned some SDGs that you were contributing that are directly related to your business model, and some other SDGs that you're contributing throughout your internal operations, like gender equality. Elisabetta, with Treedom, you mentioned a little bit before, but would be happy to have more details on how you actually connecting the different SDGs in the projects that you're defining and you're launching.
With the SDG Action Manager tool, but also with other, impact evaluation, we were able to see that we were at the beginning really focused on our impact in the forestry project that we are doing in Africa and South America. But then using this framework, we could see how our operation have an impact also on our local communities here in Italy, and also our suppliers here in Italy, our employees, their families. So it really changed our mindset to not just seeing our operation or activities as a way to bring an impact in specific location, but in a more holistic approach, and see how every single activities, every single relationship we are having with customers, stakeholders, employers, let's say a wider community, are affecting our social impact and our environmental impact. So not just being focused on specific projects or specific activities, but have this mindset that really can make a lasting change. That is we don't want a one-shot change, we want a lasting change. And changing the mindset is the most effective way to do it.
I hear mindset a lot coming from it, and we see it from the different examples indeed, that sustainability in general is all about how we think about it in integrated approach, but also thinking on how we can be constructive and contribute to it collaboratively all together. But I'm wondering also how difficult it could be for a company, because we saw the numbers earlier that not so many companies are actually integrating sustainability or taking enough ambitious actions to contribute to those goals. What could be the obstacles? What, during your journey or experience, what type of challenges have you met that could hinder companies to be able to be successful in that journey? Boaz, do you want maybe to share some stories on your side?
I think the main challenge is the choice. Whenever decision is a choice, short-term monetary gains can come forward in many organizations. there must be the commitment of top management, also a guide for strategies aligned with SDGs. So focusing on long-term goals is a challenge. It's not that easy. Speaking it is easy, but executing it is really difficult. Visions, strategies, and even action plans has to be made by the top management approach first. I'm sorry, but when the firms internalize the sustainability, then bottom to top process can be initiated. That's what I believe.
So we understand top management being involved, and that is something that I think is also being translated in Treedom or Fairer example. I think also you mentioned in the conversation we had earlier, Boaz, this idea also of long-term and short-term elements, and that even more with innovation is being represented, if I'm not mistaken, because when you try to innovate, you have a more longer-term type of cycles and lead times, but sometimes with financial considerations, then the expectations are more short-term. How do you manage that?
Definitely. It's not that easy to answer. For sure, sustainability is our guide to achieve long-term goals. To reach them, we have to transform the meaning of innovation of us. We have created innovation core values in our company, which can lead us. Because if you don't have any lead for future, you're lost. We consider sustainability as a must, but our actions are aligned with mainly 6 SDGs that I mentioned before. So with every step we take, we are creating positive effect in these areas. I believe CEOs, senior managers, stakeholders, we all need to step in. We have the responsibility to keep our community and our firm away from short-term gains which are adverse to SDGs and also keeping us behind. We must trust the innovation way to winning the future. That's what I believe.
So it's linking the two aspects you have mentioned, right? The top management being convinced and holding and supporting that initiative. So it has to be transparent in the strategy itself. And then when it's being applied, because the long-term strategy would already integrate sustainability, then on the ground, then it can also be applied. So again, we have this idea of alignment that comes again when talking about how we can make sure that sustainability is not in conflict with the other interests of the company, but coherent and harmonious with the company structure itself.
Yeah, and also innovation.
And innovation.
Innovation is our key. I mean, for to success.
No, that's a very good point as well, because as you mentioned before, innovation can mean so many different things, and innovation can lead to some very unusual outcomes that may not be what we want to achieve. And when they are being designed with maybe only financial profits design or but when they are being designed using nature, using sustainability as a guide set and trying to solve societal issues, that they can make wonder and have real benefits for the company. So that's great that you're here to represent also that department, because this is something that often when we talk about sustainability is not really mentioned, but is also playing a key role in applying sustainability. And then also very curious to hear about Marta, because I know in Fairer, you have been going through a very long journey of transformation. It keeps on evolving, right? It looks like a continuous improvement on how to be more and more sustainable. What are type of challenges or obstacles are you meeting in that transformational journey?
Yeah, well, we've come through many different challenges across the different time. I've been in Fairer for over 7 years now, and the challenges we had to face at the beginning, maybe, even though since the beginning, we are very lucky in Fairer that the whole board of directors are really committed with sustainability, starting from our owner, which is a huge believer of sustainability. But even though sometimes that's not enough, at the beginning, of course, we had to face challenges more related to maybe ignorance. Maybe at the beginning, people, when you were talking about eco-design projects or sustainability issues, they thought, oh God, this is going to be more expensive, or this cannot be done. And then slowly, when you implement projects and you prove that not only it's possible, but sometimes, and most of the times, even better, it's possible. But at the moment, I think we overcome that phase. We have everyone, well, almost everyone on board, I would say. And I would say that in the moment we are now, where we are in this process of integrating sustainability in the core business, in the purpose, in our business model, and we want to go really further on all that, we see that also with the B Corp process, that the bigger a company is, also bigger the challenge is. It's not the same to implement sustainability issues in a small company than when it's a huge company. Of course, the bigger we are, the bigger the impact we generate. But, it's always more complex. There's more people involved, more decisions. So I think that's a challenge, but we like challenges, and that's where we are. And I think that's where actually business play a role, because we have the power to create this bigger impact. That's not easy. It's complex, but it's possible. And that's what I would I would like to express this today, this call to action, that because it's difficult, that doesn't mean it's not possible. So it just takes more time to be more resilient, but never say no. That's what I would say.
That's a very beautiful message, especially with those very difficult times. Resilience is also a notion that has come on top of the agenda, and we have discovered some values and resources we never thought about, but we were capable of, but we were. And thank you for this also very transparent and honest message, Marta, because I do feel it's really important that we inspire others, but also make them understand very realistically that, as you said, it's not an easy journey. It requires efforts and challenges. But looking at your smile and your passion still today, after all those many years in the sector, I can say that it also is bringing value to yourself as an individual, but also looking at Ferrer and the work that you have been doing with the company, also bringing results in that sense. And Elisabetta, with Treedom, did you meet any challenge? So the size of a company is different, and the context is also very different. But I would be curious to understand, so what type of obstacles would you meet in pursuing your mission?
I think one of the main challenges is to have a monitoring system and not also, say, make statement on your sustainability or your impact on the environment and society, but also it's really important to prove it with data, with numbers, with also, yes, concrete metrics on that. And this can be quite complicated, but it's really important, because if you want to be accountable, you need to be transparent. And to be transparent, you need to have a monitoring system and to prove what you are saying, especially when your customers are choosing you because you say that you are sustainable. You have to prove them that it's true. And I think it's one of the most important things. And also in this mood of being transparent, to be honest, to say what you have gained, but also to say what is your room of improvement, what you will do, and to, let's say, be challenged by your customers, stakeholders, beneficiaries to obtain those goals. I think it's challenging because you put yourself in front of audience, but it's also really important.
I can see some courage indeed on being up to the faith and challenge, also being challenged, being open to being challenged and being transparent is not easy. But that's a very important key message. So thank you for conveying it. I also heard impact management, which is not always easy to find the right tool and to be able to assess exactly this type of impact. We're still working on many solutions. Of course, within B-Lab, we have some tools. Some other organizations also have their own tools, but it's all about each company's also case to case, because there are some things that are very dedicated, or I would say specific to each company and their own understanding and their mission and what they want, what type of value they want to bring to society. I've been told that in the chat you haven't asked so many questions. There was one question about the sincerity of companies that are contributing, and I will actually slightly change this question to ask you a question before we conclude our session. Unfortunately, 45 minutes are going so fast. But just one question. Do you feel that companies, the way we've seen key figures before, but do you feel that we're doing enough? Do you think what we're doing at the moment is enough? Or what what type of things, what type of levers, what should we do to make sure that we can actually be better on track to achieve those goals, since there is this deadline that goals have been defined for 2030, and we've seen that some of them are off track. Anything you want to share? I'm leaving it open if any of you have something to share. Yes, Marta, I can see you want to talk.
Yeah, I think I'm talking in a more general level. I think it's not enough, and it's clear data that's been published. Even if we look at the COP climate strategy, I mean, we see it's not enough. It has changed a lot. I think a lot of companies have started to make a step forward on sustainability, but still I think it's not enough. I think that there's a need of a lot of more awareness raising. A lot of people still, companies still see sustainability that it's something that it's not, doesn't affect them directly. And I think that's the problem. I think it's not a problem of the planet. The planet, in fact, has not a problem. The problem at the moment, it's ourselves. We have to act for our own good, because if we improve the impact we generate in the planet, in society, the way we interact among us, it's going to help us live in a better society. And I think this click has not happened yet. So a lot of awareness raising is needed. A lot of more push from the governments, in my perspective, needs to be done. However, I think it has improved a lot over the past years. I'm still optimistic that our path until 2030 will change a lot. And we see that now, and we see the interest sustainability has in the agenda nowadays. It's more public on television, and it's starting to be more fashionable, let's say. In the past, maybe it was not that attractive. So hopefully the mindset will change in the upcoming years, but I think it's never enough. And that's why we have to take a more active role here and be not so passive. And we all need to be activists in this movement if we really want to create a change and live in a better world for us and for our kids. But still, I'm optimistic, but I think it's not enough.
Go ahead, Boaz. Thank you, Marta, for this testimonial.
I agree with Marta. It is not enough. It will be not enough also in the future. So we have to work on it. But I would like to take all of your attention to one more thing about this cooperation, collaboration, and partnership. If we come together, it's so complex. It's a so big issue to solve the big and complex problems. You cannot do it alone. You need academia, suppliers, other firms, partners, authorities, and their involvement. I think it's a shared sustainable mindset. So sustainability actions should not be limited, especially for today, for marketing and communication only. That's what I believe. It should be valid end to end. Then there's high chance to achieve the goals soon. So it's definitely not enough, and we have to work together. So cooperation, partnerships is crucial.
Thank you for mentioning that. And we saw in the chat that someone was mentioning indeed in this idea of partnership, the relationship with social enterprise and investing in social innovation. Boaz, is that something that you feel could contribute indeed and be a representation of this partnership that big companies could do with other solution providers or entrepreneurs?
Definitely, we are doing all of them. Open innovation. We are also involving in the SDG IA programs, and we work with startups. That's for sure. There's no other way, I guess.
And then linking this idea of partnerships, Elisabetta, do you want to add on that, or maybe to share another element on how we can maybe accelerate the change in the meet those goals?
I think that partnership for the goal, that it's also one of the SDGs. It's really important. And also we cannot, as a single company, we can have an impact, but we cannot change the whole system. So to have great partnership, also partnership with, let's say, disadvantaged communities. So not trying to solve problem of others, but let those it really affected to tell us what they need and collaborate together in a mutual perspective. I think it's really important, especially when I see it from Western countries' perspective. Sometimes we do not have this approach, and I think it's really important. And also educate ourselves and try to educate our customers, stakeholders, suppliers, beneficiaries on their role. I think it's really important to, let's say, spread these ethics around us. I think it's one of the key key element.
I hear indeed. So stakeholders, the mindset you have mentioned before, but also going out of our scope. And Marta was talking about activism. This is a concept that is being represented a lot in every story you have shared. And I'm sorry that we're coming to the end of this session already. I wish we could talk more. But before we move to a very powerful keynote speaker that I have a lot of respect for, I would like to give you just one last question to all of you very rapidly, to give a challenge. If you were to give a challenge or dare to the audience listening to us, what would it be?
I would say, don't be afraid. It's time to take action, and we can all contribute, even if we think it's tiny bit what we can do. And we have to be strong enough to give our voice in any situation that we may face when we see someone that does not believe in that, or that says that this is all false. So just don't be afraid, and it's possible. I mean, being difficult, that does not mean that's not possible. And I think it's time that we open our eyes and take action. So I encourage you to be part of this.
So the challenge of Marta is to be as resilient, passionate, and a warrior as she is on an everyday basis. Boachi or Elisabetta, what is the challenge you're giving to our audience today?
Do not afraid of collaboration. Normally we do. Do not afraid of it. Do not afraid of being alone, because we are not alone. So we have a huge crowd, believe in sustainability and for good future. So thank you, and believe in yourself.
Thank you, Boachi. Elisabetta?
I would say set one goal and one time set and pursue it. So start with one concrete goal as a science.
Thank you, everyone. So we're leaving the floor now, but it was a pleasure talking with all of you, and really big thank you to all the team. Gule gule!